My name is Daiva Malinauskienė, and I am a director of Soros International House and the coordinator and initiator of Nordplus Nordic Languages project, Play Your Way to Norway. Today I will moderate the conference, the final event of the project, which has been implemented in Lithuania and Norway by Soros International House and Afterskolen, with great support of the associated partners, Vilnius Karoliniškių Gymnasium and Youth for Diversity Agder in Christiansen. So on behalf of the project partnership, which is a great international team of very professional and enthusiastic people, I would like to welcome all the conference guests and participants. I hope that the conference presentations and the insights from the panel discussion will give you new ideas for professional activities and personal life, as the current situation in the world has shown that the real and digital world must be harmonious and balanced. So enjoy your time with us, ask questions if they arise, and send your reflections on the event. Open and professional feedback is the best assessment for further improvement. And before we start our presentations, I would like to ask my colleague Christina, who everybody have already seen on the screen, to provide you with some information that will help us to organize the event smoothly from the technical point of view.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. So before we begin, let me give you some technical details. So all participants should have their video and audio turned off, okay? And let's keep it this way throughout the whole conference. So if you are not giving a presentation, please turn off the video so that we are not distracted, and audio as well should be turned off at all times. Just a note that the conference is being recorded. If during the presentation you would like to ask a question to the presenter, please type your answer in the chat box on Zoom. And also state who your question is for if you remember that you have a question a bit later. If the presenter doesn't have enough time to answer your question in the chat, then they will send their response to you in an email. Which brings me to a very important point. Please take a minute now to check that your name is written correctly next to your little window, okay? So that is necessary for us to know who participated, and also so that presenters know whom to send the email with their reply. So how to change your name? So make sure you click on the participants, find yourself, find your username, whatever you use to log in, and then click on the three dots next to mute or unmute and click rename, and then type your first name and last name. Like you see under my video, it says Kristina Kudryashova. So please do that now.
Okay, thank you, Kristina. And now I would like to invite our special guest, Professor Dr. Irina Volungevičienė, a director of Innovative Studies Institute at Vytautas Magnus University in Kaunas, for the welcoming word and presentation. Irina is a past president of EDEN, European Distance and E-Learning Network, and the chair of two boards, the Management Board of EDEN, Digital Learning Europe, and the Board of Lithuanian Association of Distance and E-Learning. She is an associate professor in education and a research leader and senior researcher in global grant research. I personally am always very happy to listen to her presentations because Irina has a special gift for public speaking and the ability to make everyone believe her without much discussion. The floor is yours, Irina.
Dear Daiva, dear colleagues, thank you very much for a very warm introduction. I'm very happy to be with you today in a conference that is on open educational resources, on open education as such. Actually, open educational resources came to Lithuania from Scandinavia. I can tell this with confidence because the first projects in 2007, 2008 came with this new phenomenon of open educational resource, and it was very complicated to start speaking about open educational resources, to translate actually the term of open educational resources, to start researching them. And I'm so happy now that this is a very well now positioned concept, that the benefits of open educational resources have been approved, so to say, recognized by UNESCO, by a European policy in education, but not only by a Scandinavian country group, but also by the Baltics and the Europe at large. So I introduced open educational resources in my presentation through a digitally competent educators position, and I also mentioned the digitally competent organization because such framework also exists. And I would like to share with you two practices. I'm cautious about time, so I think I have 10 minutes, but if more, then I'm happier. Otherwise, I will try to be quite brief to let the rest speakers have also their dedicated time for that. So first, I want to remind you about the existing framework of digitally competent educators framework that has been proposed for European education institutions by a joint research center at the European Commission. And I was very happy to join this team and work on the developments of this framework. And it's really very useful for us now to position innovations that are already finding right places in our lives and try to see in which competence group we can identify one or the other object. So open educational resources belong to digital resource group of educators' pedagogic competences. And actually, if we prepare our teachers, our students and develop these competences, we think about several things. How we teach them to select open educational resources, how we teach them to create and modify open educational resources, and how we teach them to manage, to protect, and share the resources that we think are open and in an editable form. The first experience that we had in Erasmus Plus project was the project that was dedicated for training teachers to use OERs. It was the way that we addressed was open professional collaboration, because open professional collaboration is always supporting developing, editing, sharing open educational resources for a collaborative development of innovative curriculum, of course, integrating open educational resources in it. That was quite some time ago, and we were happy to train teachers to find the best ways to collaboratively develop OERs, edit them, and then find different ways on how to integrate it into curriculum. We thought that it is possible to use it as a learning resource. It is also possible to use it as a resource for assessment practices, not only for testing, but also for different assessment methods and practices. And then, of course, also to introduce OERs into group work, into teamwork, because this is by nature a collaborative resource for open and collaborative activities. We even tried to establish practice publishing online in a virtual space, when we thought that if teachers develop collaboratively national versions of OERs, they might be adapted, translated to different languages, which is also in the nature of OER. And one of the preconditions for this is not only to put a resource in an open place, but to insert editable version of open educational resource. Otherwise, we can master technology, but we might not be able to adapt the resource itself. So those were the first traces and experiences that enriched not only actually skills and competences, but the values, the understanding about the whole process. However, the next experiment came on a quite different level, because when we introduce teachers with collaboration, and when teachers are getting more and more involved in developing, in modifying, in editing OERs, we think it's the right time for teachers to start working in the same way with their students. So Vytautas Makrius University participated in the project, Horizon project organized by the Open University UK that developed slidewiki.org portal. And this portal was supposed to introduce a new mode for higher education teachers, and not only higher education, but adult educators and vet teachers, and why not school in the future maybe, to develop slides on already existing open educational materials, and then to integrate them in a creative way in their curriculum as well. The idea was to promote OERs among teachers and students, and to contribute to building awareness about this new, still new phenomenon in higher education, definitely. So we trained a selected group of teachers. They developed open educational resources. They created, integrated, and blended an online learning courses, and then tested with students. They invited students also to produce their assignments in the format of OER and to share in the platform of SlideWiki. Teachers created open slides, integrated them in the online and blended learning courses, and slides were used in courses as theoretical materials, so a very natural way by the teacher to do during lecturing time, and that did not, of course, foster active student engagement, so that was an evident difference. But when students were invited to implement activities using slides developed for open educational resources, teachers immediately, of course, noticed the difference because that promoted student creation of open slides, sharing, involvement of their peers into the same education activities. So different possibilities were identified by this group of teachers and students, and both groups were encouraged to use share-alike license suggested by Creative Commons for OERs. Of course, as a university, we love research, and we did the surveys. We did surveys 3 times. We had a group of 15 university teachers who participated in this experiment, so to say, or case study. And we surveyed them before development of open educational resources, after development, and after testing of their OERs with students. And we had teacher interviews as well. Of course, we can say that this is a very positivistic approach, but we immediately see how teacher attitude develops, and that both phases, not only the development of knowledge, of understanding and skills of the development of OER, but applying them in practice and testing them with students increases a lot the satisfaction with the work they do, then increases also the visibility of the teacher and the student amongst peers and others, enhances personal, organizational reputation, and teachers recognize that, promotes collaboration, develop new ideas for new consortia. Then as a teacher, teachers recognize that it's their responsibility to share all educational resources created with colleagues, and that actually it's a natural requirement by students for teachers to master OER development and create curriculum on the basis of OER. The other effect that has been also reached very evidently is that people start thinking about intellectual property rights, understand OER, about the efficiency of ICT skills that are needed to create, use, reuse OER, and competence development. So actually, there were interesting observations by teachers and main ideas, and they were very happy about this experience and about new understanding on the phenomenon of OER and the processes. And I think that was a part of the competence development in the organization, because that was human resource competence improvement, and we immediately followed up with this. I think it is important that all organizations that try OERs, they immediately start discussing with their community how to build on this potential. So in our case, we opened the website dedicated for OERs. We started developing community projects, research, open courses, training material, started selecting examples, collecting them, identifying projects, identifying people working on that. Later on, we, of course, were thinking about how OERs and how open education, and when we have OERs or when we have open educational practices and when we have open education, and how we can match them, how we can recognize them, how can we link one with another. As you see, the projects, the experiences that I shared with you were quite some time ago, and now we stand on the idea of open studies, where we develop different levels of openness in education, different possibilities. The teachers who started with open educational resources, with open educational practices, now suggest different level open educational courses, sometimes completely open, sometimes to some extent open to society members, and they continue working on that. So actually, the sustainable development issue that we usually address in project work is very important for organization. We can implement project tasks, we can finalize them and report to programs, to agencies, but it's very important to see how we develop these innovations with the people who participate in the process. We understand that we cannot transfer innovations per se into an organization, but try to find and identify different possibilities. We think that the most important aspect is professional collaboration and open professional collaboration. And when we think we are ready for this openness in collaboration, we sometimes are afraid of it, and all of us, and we need more information about the benefits, but this experience that we gain is the only way to find the way further, the way to the future. So I think every project now that starts and continues with the development of OER is one of the good initiatives towards sustainability that we want for our organizations, that we want for Europe, for our professional communities. And my final slide is that we are more flexible and we are more open already because we know what OERs are. And I think that today, differently than 10 years ago or even more years ago, we take it very naturally as a way of learning. And I hope that you will find your best ways to using this experience that you gained in the projects in your professional collaboration that I'm sure you will continue in the open way. Thank you very much for the possibility to open this conference, and I wish you a very, very successful way with OERs.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Irina very much for her informative and nice presentation. And now I would like to invite another representative of Vytautas Magnus University to make a to give a presentation on open educational resources from a slightly different angle. Another presenter is Jurgita Vaičenonienė. Jurgita is associate professor and a researcher at the Center of Computational Linguistics and a lecturer at the Department of Foreign Language, Literary and Translation Studies. Her research interests includes corpus-based translation studies, translation pedagogy, and corpus linguistics. She is also interested in building Lithuanian language resources for research purpose and pedagogical applications. Since 2016, Jurgita has been working as a national coordinator for the Clarin LT Consortium. So the floor is yours, Jurgita.
Thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for this nice introduction and the opportunity to be here at this conference. The aim of my speech will be to demonstrate how these open access resources and language analysis tools can help students of any age to learn individually. Although I will be using English to demonstrate various activities, methods, or information search principles, I'm sure that they are applicable to other languages, and hopefully you might find them helpful in learning Norwegian, Lithuanian, or any other language. So, as I say, to talk about resources in language teaching is practically impossible, because it would seem that everything has been told. When you go to the internet, you see that there are oceans, seas of various tutorials, literature, amazing sources and resources out there, and they are increasing with every day. So that is why I thought that maybe I will share my own experience as a teacher, as a researcher, and on one of the specific particular methods that I use, that is learning the language and culture from large collections of texts. We call them corpora. So whenever I want to discover some answers to my questions, linguistic or cultural or any others, I look at the huge collections of texts. And this is the method that actually I learned from my teachers when I was like 20, in my 20s or so. And this is the method that I still apply in my classes when preparing for the new lectures for this presentation as well. And the method that my students use for various assignments, and the method I'm using in my research. Well, of course, I should say that my perspective is only a very small part of a much, much bigger picture called open access language resources, research infrastructures, and corpus linguistics. So the corpus-based or driven approach in language education is really by no means new, and most of you, I think, you really know it, and it has been a leading approach already for several decades. Sometimes teachers and students, we integrate this approach without even knowing that we are using this corpus-based discovery learning. Just to give an example, let's say whenever we go to some kind of online language dictionary, so what we most likely see there, it's the data which is generated not by some kind of, I don't know, uber clever professor sitting on a comfortable sofa and inventing nice language examples. Actually, what you find numerous data on such issues as frequencies, collocations, phraseology, variation, lexis, grammar, and they all retrieved from dozens of examples of authentic language use found in corpora. So this main benefit of discovery or data-driven learning, it's showing the students how to find the answers themselves. Well, for example, one of the scholars, Jones, says that when students work with the corpus data, they become real researchers. They observe the patterns. They look at certain salient features. They classify the data, and then they generalize. They develop their own rules. And this is, I think, really fun for them. So in this approach, I think that the main role of the teacher, the lecturer, it's only to guide the student, to show how to learn individually. And then in this way, the student will be able to apply this method individually in different stages of life, in different situations, and I think then when we are as lecturers mostly proud of them, that we see that really this input is worthwhile, and students, they continue developing and using what we've learned them. So once again, the benefits of this approach is that what you get, it's not some kind of a decontextualized, artificially created information. Well, I think that was the way I was learning English at school, and maybe some of you also remember these old methods when the various exercises would be developed, let's say, drawing on personal intuitions of textbook creators, in this case on the personal sense of humor. Very often they would be created by non-native speakers of language, and so this is what you get. You have to find out what's the sense of the exercise, and then you do it and you forget it the next day. So I think that, well, once again, this approach of discovery learning, when you encourage the students to come to their answers about the language themselves, rather than presenting all this information like top down, you give the grammar rules and you ask to memorize them by heart, it's really not what we need today. And I think that this discovery approach and as well corpus-based approach is very much in line with today's conference, the conference where we celebrate this project, which specifically promotes this cross-cultural, cross-linguistic awareness and self-guided learning. So when I refer to language data, it's actually a very, very broad phenomenon. And as you can see, it can be anything. It can be something which is created by individual or groups of individuals. It can be written, spoken, verbal, non-verbal, biased or trustworthy, and so on and so forth. So then what should we do? I think that one of the ways, well, of course, to test our research questions, to become researchers ourselves, to find the answers to our questions, we need this data. Yes, and although that we know that it's out there everywhere, and it's maybe not that difficult to access to it, but then how can we be sure that it is reliable and trustworthy? And one of the possible ways how to not to get lost in this ocean of information and find the data you really want to use, it's to address the so-called research infrastructures, which really provide a lot of services which are not necessarily oriented at researchers or professors or people working only at universities. Actually, they can be used by various target communities like teachers, students, and the data can be used for a variety of educational purposes. And now, as I'll be talking and presenting these research infrastructures, what I invite you to do actually, it's to Google for the keywords that I'll be referring to, like Clarin or other resources and tools that I'll demonstrate in a second, because well, these days multitasking is our new religion, and I know that it's very often for us difficult to concentrate on one particular task, like let's say the head talking out of the screen, and we tend to do several things at once. So actually Googling and searching for this additional information, it's very good during my presentation. So, okay, so we know that the data is out there and that we can use it in our classes and in developing various projects, giving students homework assignments. So how to access this data? And well, Clarin it's the research infrastructure. Of course, there are more of them, but Clarin specifically is devoted for everyone who is interested in humanities and social sciences. And actually, anyone can be active users of the services provided by this infrastructure, because they are freely available, open for public, and only some of the data sources needs institutional access, but we are not interested in them today. So now I will try to switch to go to the online website. Just please let me know if you can see it. If something goes wrong, let me know so that I would stop talking and try to reshare the screen. I hope that now you would be able to see the main website. Yes, I see Christina is showing the thumb, so this is all working. So once again, this is the main website of Clarin infrastructure. And imagine, okay, so you want to find the resources on, let's say, Norwegian language or some other language. So what you may do, you go to the service website, yes, page, and one of the services that is offered there is the so-called virtual language observatory. I click on the button, go to it, and this is actually the place where over 1 million of language resources are stored. So let's say, okay, I want to see if there is anything on Norwegian language, and just let's look. what we get here. I press the search button and you see that there are over 1,000 of resources dedicated specifically to Norwegian. And of course, some of them may not maybe that useful for us as language teachers, but if we scroll down, we can see that there is a corpus on Norwegian language that maybe there is something interesting for translators, people working with translation studies, Norwegian word bank, some kind of bilingual legal terminology, and so on and so forth. So this is one way how you can access the data. And actually, once again, as I said, not all of them is open for public. So what you can use, you may use filters here. And let's say maybe you want to see only the resources which are available for public. So you click on the public button, and then you see that there are about 800 of publicly available resources, and which means that you go to a particular one and you download it and can work with it. Well, there are, of course, a number of other services, and let's say maybe sometimes you really get a lot of information and you feel that you get lost and there's so much of everything. What do you really need? What you can do, let's say, you can go to Clarin Center of a particular language. So it depends on the languages you are working with. These are the centers, the Clarin centers, based in different countries. And once again, as we are celebrating Norwegian here today, let's try to find here the Norwegian Clarin Center. It's Clarino, situated in the University of Bergen. I just click on the button and see what it has. And of course, I don't know Norwegian, so I'm really sorry. I won't be able to comment a lot on that. But this is the way, once again, how you can access specifically the resources that are in the Norwegian language. Okay, I think I already went to this website. So once again, if you are interested, you can just kind of look for further information, and you can then access specifically resources devoted for the Norwegian language. I think that there are various bilingual dictionaries, I think of the Sami and some other language, and there are a lot of them, especially if, let's say, you are learning some varieties of that. So that's one way. Okay, if you're interested in the English language, you are an English language teacher, you can go, let's say, to the Clarin UK website, in which there are okay, so many fantastic resources available there for you. You can just click on the resource button and you can get access to the British National Corpus, to a variety of other data sources that might be of your interest. Later, I will demonstrate the spoken BNC corpus. So this is one way how you can navigate the Clarin website. There are various other services. Let's say one of the more recent services that is still being developed is called the Clarin Trainer Network Program and Clarin Training Suite. In the future, they will upload various training material specifically oriented at us lecturers, teachers who work with students, and maybe we are not always sure what resources would be useful for us. So here we will find the best practices, tutorials of various classes which are recorded, or maybe some papers and articles written on best practices. So my advice is, if you are interested, just to subscribe to the newsletter and follow the news there. Okay, so now going back to my slides. So here, this is what I try to show, that you can access the Clarion data either through the Virtual Language Observatory or go directly to the national centers of particular languages, search the Virtual Language Observatory, go to the resource families, other services, and see whether there is something interesting that you may find. Now, okay, so you find some kind of corpus of your interest, what you could do with it. Once again, it's not that complicated. If you learn to use and navigate one corpus, actually the search system is identical in a number of similar resources. So then you know how to use other ones as well. So you find the corpus, you just type the words that you are interested in, you get the output of the results, the authentic language use examples, there may be thousands of them, you analyze the results, generalize, and then apply this for various educational purposes: exercise development, homework assignments, discussion questions, examples, and so on and so forth. Now here, I thought that before showing some of the demos, I thought maybe it would be interesting to share my experience, what I do with the students. And well, maybe these examples, they are not very sophisticated, but they were very much appreciated by my students in classes, and we had really very interesting discussions about them, and we all came to our certain conclusions. So for example, what the students want to know, let's see, the one word or another word which are similar, synonymous, how they are used in different contexts, in which situations one word is better than another. Then the Lithuanian students, they always struggle with the punctuation. And let's say we always put a comma before that in English, which is not the habitual way in English punctuation, but is in Lithuanian tradition. We always mix up the prepositions. We want to know what are the synonyms for certain word if we are writing an essay, and so on and so forth. Or let's say we are interested in the specific, senses of the words in different contexts. Let's say here, the word wave, do you think it's more commonly used in positive or negative situations these days? Because wave, it would seem a very neutral word referring to some kind of sea processes, yes. But then when you think about metaphorical use of the words, and you think about the global pandemics, you find wave in relation to the illnesses, yes, a new wave of or outbreak of the illness appeared, yes. So very often the concordance lines, contextual examples help the students, instead of referring to dictionary and kind of learning the senses of the word by heart, to come up to their rules, to their decisions. When do they use the word, in what particular situations? Or you may do some kind of a discourse analysis, social linguistic research, and let's say try to figure out how a particular country is represented in the newspapers of another language. And once again, there are so many online available resources out there that it's really impossible to demonstrate all of them. And I'll try to just focus on some if I still have time. Here, for example, one of them offered by the Clarion UK website is the IntelliText family of corpora, where you can choose the language, and you can really choose between many languages. You choose particular corpus, you type in the word you are interested in, and then you get the output of its usage. And remember, there was one question, so should we use comma before but? So the students, let's say, search for this data, and this is what they get. They know that the rule is, yes, we should place the comma, but maybe there are exceptions. Maybe in reality, people don't use it because this is actual language use. And then they see how sometimes the grammatical theory is not always reflected in actual language use. And for example, this example is very nice. Had nothing but goodwill. So then they have to explain why comma is not needed here. Is it a mistake, or is there some kind of other rule why we don't use comma here? And then I would like to try to also to show you this VNC lab, going back to my online website. Okay, so this is a fantastic data set. It is a spoken English corpus collected from 1994 and 2014, and you can do really interesting comparative analysis on the spoken English usage. And for example, remember when I said that, okay, students ask me, so when do we use the word pardon? So you just type in the word and choose the variation you want to look at, let's say the change. And this is what you get. I hope you can see this. Tell me if you can't. You can see that earlier in 1994, the word pardon was much more frequently used. And then these days, it's becoming really not that frequent, yes? And this is already something interesting. Then you can do the same with the word sorry, excuse, and see maybe some other words are replacing pardon. But then why this pardon and how is it used? Gender differences? We can see that actually well, in 1994, it was less frequently used by one gender in comparison to another gender. Or let's say, what about the social class variation? And once again, we can see that different classes also would use the word in different ways. And then you can go to the actual usage of the words, yes, and see the context in which they are used. So once again, I think that you already are thinking of the all possible applications of this particular corpus and tool that you can integrate in your classes. Another example, once again, how to search for the synonyms. We have a fantastic lexical database. Well, this is for the English language, but other languages also have it. Let's say the WordNet. Let's say I want to find synonyms for the word happen. Happy. I just search for it, and I see that there are other words like felicitous, glad, even well chosen, with the contextual examples, and then I can look at another word and see its contextual variants and synonyms and antonyms and so on and so forth. Now, maybe I'll just close this. Another very interesting tool, it's based on the internet data, which helps you maybe then to do this more sophisticated social linguistic analysis, as I mentioned, on, let's say, the representation of Norway in various newspapers. And this is what I do. I choose the, let's say, UK broadsheet newspapers, UK tabloid newspapers, and try to look what I get. And this is the output. So ask your students, okay, how are Lithuanians represented in UK newspapers? What are the stereotypes? Are we represented in negative or bad or positive contexts? And let's say here, very, very superficially, we can say that Norway is represented in relation to, okay, first of all, I think it's criminal activities, then a lot of information on hotels, tourist destinations, Oslo hotel, as I see, travel destinations, the politics. We see that prime minister is most often referred. Once again, we see hotels and tourism related data, and so on and so forth. So, okay, and also we see the contemporary topics, the COVID and all this pandemic situation analysis. So once again, you can classify a group and see what are the dominant tendencies, in which context something is presented more or less frequently. Okay, I'll go back for a second to my slides. So that's what I tried to demonstrate. Lexical databases, Web Corp for using various search functionalities. And so far, what I showed freely available resources where you don't have to do anything, just search in, type in certain word and get the output. But then there are other resources, and one of them is offered also by Clarion. It's called the Voyant Tools, where you can upload your own data. And get really fantastic results. Imagine that you want to analyze, let's say, your students' writing. You collect your student texts, upload them to the tool, and you get a statistical analysis of the most frequent words that they use. Maybe they overuse linking expressions, and then you show them how they do about it. So this is what I'll do. This is the program of our conference. I'll try to copy the link to the tool and ask it to reveal the situation. And this is what I see. I see a very, very nice word cloud of the keywords that are most prominent in our conference program. And if you can see, these are the most frequent words below. And actually, they are very, very accurate representation of what the conference is about. We are talking about languages, Lithuanian and Norwegian, that this is an international event, and people giving the presentations, they occupy directors' positions. So see, you can explain everything very, very logically when you know the text. So I think these word clouds, you can choose how many words can be used in your word cloud, and they can be, once again, copied as a visual information for various purposes. Here in the middle, you can see the full text uploaded here. This diagram shows the dispersion of the word in the text, and so on and so forth. Now, actually, all the tools have manuals and instructions how to use them. So if you are interested in them, there is a lot of information out there in the internet, and you can really kind of do the follow-up research on your own if it's interesting for you. And I think that already, I think I have to finish. Yes, I talked a lot, and I hope that at least some of the examples that I tried to show were useful in a way. Thank you so much for your attention, and I will be really glad to answer the questions if there are any now or maybe during the panel discussion. So thank you so much once again, and I give the word to our moderator.
Thank you, Jurgita. I think everybody, it's an inspiring presentation. I think many of colleagues after the conference will get onto the website of Clarion and try to, you know, but yeah, thank you very much. It was really, really interesting. And now I would like to invite my colleague, Christina, for another presentation. So, as I have already mentioned before, this conference is the final event of Play Your Way to Norway project. Whose main goal was to develop an online education platform, a tool for self-directed learning. So Christina now will introduce to you the structure of the platform and its content, and will demonstrate the principles of its operation. A few words on the presenter. Kristina Kudryashova, project and academic activity coordinator and English language teacher, has been working for Soros International House for 5 years. Kristina has a bachelor degree in applied mathematics and a master degree in education management. And while studying education technologies in doctoral program in South Korea, she started working as an English teacher to children. She hated so much that she hated it, the teaching, so much that she never thought that she would ever do it again. But after returning from South Korea, Kristina started working at Soros International House as an English teacher, again, encouraged by her partner who had started teaching there a few weeks prior. And this time she realized how much passion she had for teaching. And later, Kristina got involved with international projects, and recently she had also taken on the duties of an academic activity coordinator. And I can assure you that every employer would be happy to have such a professional, creative, and reliable team member as Kristina. So, Kristina.
Thank you very much for such a nice introduction. Okay, so today I will be presenting to you an online platform called Play Your Way to Norway, where anyone can learn not only the basics of Norwegian language, but also Norwegian culture. That's why I wouldn't call it a language learning program, but a tool for discovering a new country through its language and culture. The platform was created as the project's main intellectual output. The project, by the same name, Play Your Way to Norway, was funded by Nordplus and implemented by 2 partners. In Lithuania, Soros International House, the coordinating institution, and in Norway, Aftenskolen. There were also 2 associated partners. In Lithuania, Vilnius Karoliniškių Gymnasium, and in Norway, Youth for Diversity Actor. Soros International House, the coordinating institution, were responsible for the platform's web solution. And Aftenskolen, the Norwegian partners, with the help of Youth for Diversity Actor, were responsible for creating the contents of the platform. Now, after the developed contents have been uploaded to the web solution, the platform was piloted with high school students from Vilnius Karoliniškių Gymnasium. Now, after piloting, we collected students' feedback, and based on that feedback, we improved some aspects of the platform. And then it was officially launched on January 24th this year, which is also the International Day of Education. So let's take a look at some numbers. Since its launch in January, there have been over 1,000 visitors to the platform, over 2,600 page views, and it was really interesting to look at the demographics on who was interested to use the platform. So it was mostly Lithuanian people, 77%. In number 2, Norwegian people. So we are guessing these were probably immigrants or foreigners, expats living in Norway who wanted to learn the language. Latvia, 6%, and then other countries, the other remaining 10%. So the platform is an open educational resource to learn Norwegian language and culture. Let me now show you some screenshots. This is what you see on the main page after registering or logging into the platform. On the main page, we also wanted to give the basics of how the platform works. So we say, play a lesson a day, just as the platform is called, Play Your Way to Norway, because we tried to create a game-like experience for learners, because we learn best when it is fun and interesting, when we don't even feel that we are learning something. So we advertise it as learn a language while learning, learn a culture while learning a language, set achievable goals every day, stay motivated by staying ahead of the game because you compete actually with other players, and then you can receive instant grading because you will see what it consists of. Okay, so how does our program work? Step number 1, register. Very easy, very fast, by filling in your username, name, email address, password, and then check that you agree to the rules and privacy policy and click registration. Step number 2, to start, select one of the 2 modules that we have, as I said, Norwegian language and Norwegian culture. So these modules are actually independent of one another, so it doesn't matter which you start with. You don't need to know any Norwegian language in order to do the culture module. So you can do them interchangeably. Step number 3, so you begin with lesson 1. Doesn't matter which module, either one. So until you have completed the previous lesson, you cannot move on to the next lesson. So start with lesson 1, learn the information provided in the video, audio, text sections or tabs, and then start the little quiz. And that's where you get the instant grading. Step number 4, actually you can add difficult words and phrases to the glossary right here. On the side of the page, there is this little rectangle with letter A. When you click on it, you will see a table like this, where you can add the word or phrase in your own language and the translation in Norwegian language, and add, click on the plus sign, and then here is your list of phrases. All right, step number 5, after you've done the video, the text, the audio, you can start the test, right? When you're ready to test your knowledge at the end of each lesson, where you can answer the questions. You get points for each correct answer, but keep in mind, you only get 1 chance to get as many points as possible. Now here, I did not study enough and I clicked on the wrong answer, and I can never redo to get those points. So for every lesson and for every question, you get a certain number of points for a correct answer. If you choose the wrong answer, you don't get those points and you cannot get them in the future. So it is very important to point out that you should start the test only once you are sure that you have studied the material. Some lessons are shorter, some lessons are longer, especially with the language model. So in the text section, sometimes there is a lot you need to learn on that topic. So this is not like Duolingo or another similar app where you just next, and they're done. This is learning a language, it's not very easy. As playful as we wanted to make it, it's not always that easy. So you should really study, maybe come back the next day and then take the test. I'm making it sound like a test is very important or very difficult. It's not, it's still very playful. You have multiple choice questions and so on. So you can also compare scores. So I said that you get scores, points for every question. And then when you go back to the lesson map, here you can see this button, compare scores. And once you click on it, you see for that particular lesson, which users got how many points. So I chose here to show you the lesson where I'm on top, but many users got 50 points, which is the maximum for this lesson. Now, step number 6, proceed to lesson 2 after taking the test in lesson 1 and so on. When you finish the whole module, the language module or the culture module, you can download the certificate. Now, if it's the language model, you can download the certificate for Norwegian language level A1 after you complete the module. If you finish the culture module, you get the certificate for that module. The certificate looks like this. So if it's the culture model, it will say you have completed the 12 lessons. In the language model, there are 10 lessons. Now, what is so interesting about this platform? It has some very interesting, unique, and fun features. So unique videos. These videos were not taken from YouTube, but they're actually made by our Norwegian partners. I'm not sure if this will work here, but let's see. This is one of the videos from the language module. And you can see how it has been animated, which looks really great. Maybe the internet is not strong enough to show you. But you can watch for yourself when you can check it. The good thing about using videos from YouTube, so YouTube videos are inserted into the platform. If you haven't noticed, you can select the playback speed on YouTube. You can make it faster or you can make it slower. So you can actually repeat, go along with the video, with the conversation. First, you start with listening to it slower, but then you can actually go to the original speed. Another unique thing is the audios. So these were also recorded by our Norwegian partners. The text also completely made by our partners. And this is an example of the quiz. Unique images. So there are lots of interesting images for, I know I teach English, so I always find attractive images for verb conjugations or other grammar rules online. But you will not find these anywhere else because these were specifically created for this platform. It just makes learning and remembering things, remembering numbers, vocabulary easier and faster. So here you have seen screenshots from the language module. And now I'd like to take us to the website and show you the culture module. Okay, so I've logged in. I think you can see it, yeah. Let's choose the culture. So here, see, you have lesson 1, lesson 2, and so forth. Now, I have not completed all of the lessons yet, not on this username, but we also have topics here. We have geography, history, traditions and holidays, equality, education, democracy. Now, when we were choosing which topics to write about, which ones to introduce, we made a list of all the possible topics that we would like to know about, and then we asked students from the same high school, Vilnius Karališki Gymnasium, to rate them in terms of which ones they would be interested to learn, which ones not neutral, and which ones not so much. And we also asked them to provide their own topics if in case we missed something. So additionally, the other lessons are also on trust, freedom, free time, art, literature, and music, the royal family, and famous Norwegians. So let me take you to one of the lessons. Here you see the video. Of course, you know who these are. Yeah, the text part looks like this. There are images, there is text. And finally, let's take a look at the test. So here, thankfully, I have chosen all the correct answers. Now, because I have already completed this quiz, the button that I see here is Finish Review. And I'm taken back to the map of lessons. So yes, this is actually all that I have wanted to present today. This is our platform. So you can also, as Jurgita said, you can multitask and go to playnorway.sih.lt and register and check it out for yourself. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Christina. I hope that the number of our platform users will increase after this presentation. Yeah, and there will be people who will be interested even in taking an online lesson. Still, we have a time which Clea will provide online in May. So if you have students, or it doesn't have to be just young learners, it can be anyone. Christina did not mention that this is for anyone, not just for young learners. It can be adults, it can be, you know, senior learners, anyone. So yeah, so you're welcome to get on our website, on our platform, and try it. Thanks, Christina. So another presentation comes from our project partners in Norway, and I'm pleased to present Clea Hjortveit, with whom we are already cooperating in several projects. Clea is a senior advisor for internationalization at the University of Agder in Kristiansand. She was previously working previously working as a director at Aftenskolen, and has also held positions at the Confederation of Norwegian Enterprise and the University of Queensland in Australia. Clea has a bachelor degree in English and journalism and master degree in management. And I would like to add that Clea is always ready for challenges. She is a great project partner and a colleague with whom even the most unexpected ideas can be implemented. Am I right? I think I am.
I take that as a compliment. Thank you.
Clea's presentation will be complemented by two colleagues, Pauline Pichard and Maya Charlotte Fleck-Bausten. Pauline is a French teacher at Aftenskolen, and she also has her own company offering language services. She first came to Norway as an Erasmus student from France, and she fell in love with the country. After completing her university degree, she moved to Norway to start another chapter of her life. Maya is a student of a local university and the founder of the youth organization Youth for Diversity, Agder, which was very actively involved in the project as associate partners. It has already been mentioned by both me and Christina. So, Clea, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much for the introduction. And yes, I'd like to say an extra special thank you to Maya and Youth for Diversity and to Pauline, who has done all of the work on the language module. And I mean, Pauline put so much creativity into the images that you saw earlier. So I'm really, proud and impressed and grateful to have worked with Maya and Pauline on that. So I've concentrated when it comes to the development of the platform. My contribution has mostly been about culture. I grew up in the US and have been living in Norway for 25 years. I absolutely love Norway and I find the culture very interesting. I'm a person who likes to travel and experience new cultures, and I'm interested in language. So this is a more light-hearted and not very fact-based, but more my opinion and my spin a little bit about some of the concepts in the Norwegian language that I think represent the culture really well, and mostly the positive sides of the culture, I think is safe to say. I think I'm speaking to a lot of people who have a lot more experience and knowledge in linguistics and language than I have. I think you might discover that during my speech, but I think you'll all agree that some concepts are very linked to a culture, and then the words become a way of expressing those concepts. And I guess languages like Japanese or Chinese would maybe be the languages where you would see the biggest contrast there in the culture being so much different from Norwegian or Lithuanian or English, in that it's the culture and concepts are represented pictorially. So there might not be such a big difference with Norwegians, but maybe that will be a decent example so that you can understand, some of the nuances. So I wanted to start out with the concept of hygge and hyggelig. Hopefully some of you, maybe a lot of you, have caught on to this concept of hygge, which was actually made famous by foreign authors living in Denmark. There's the little book of hygge and the book of hygge, and hygge is kind of a very Scandinavian concept. The Danish were quick to write about it, so I guess it's been tagged mostly as a Danish concept. Something that's a little interesting with hygge is hygge is a noun, but hygge can be hyggelig. It can be an adjective, it can be an adverb, it can be a verb. You can hygge deg, and it's really kind of like the embodiment of a concept, a feeling, an emotion. It involves pillows and cushions and coffee and warmth and candles and everything that makes you feel like you're in a very, very pleasant mode. And this hygge, this hyggelig, it can be something that you experience alone, and it can be something that you experience with friends and with family. A very, very warm kind of a concept that's kind of taken off outside of Denmark. In Norway, we have hygge and hyggelig, but we also have something called koselig, which I would say I like even more than hyggelig. And like koselig is the adjective and can be an adverb. Koselig can also be something you do. You can kose deg. So koselig, as you can maybe guess, it sounds very much like cozy, and maybe that's the closest thing that we have to it, but I don't think we have anything exactly like koselig in English. You'll see that like hyggelig, it can involve coffee and, reading and something very pleasant. You're very happy. In Norway, we would often have a fire in addition to the candles, this kind of light kind of a thing. It's koselig. You can think of having a blanket around you. The Norwegian definition of koselig is a little bit different than the Danish concept, in that in Norway, koselig is very often associated with junk food, represented here by pizza, potato chips. This brand of potato chips actually made a whole campaign, Ingen Kims, Ingen Kos, no Kim's potato chips, you have no kos, you have no koselig. And that's kind of like a crime in Norway, because definitely on a Friday night or a Saturday night in Norway, you should have koselig in some form or another. So the next concept that I wanted to talk about, this is friluftsliv. This you'll find a lot if you go to the Play Away in Norway module and look at the culture sections. Friluftsliv is a very, very big part of Norwegian life, both summer and winter. Friluftsliv is being outdoors and enjoying the outdoors. It's not just about climbing up to the top of the mountain here, like you see a picture of my niece doing. It's also just being outside and picking berries. In Norway, we have kindergartens, daycare centers that are outside. School children spend a lot a lot of their day outside. So it's kind of something that's integrated into everyday life in Norway. It can be gardening, it can be skiing, hiking, kayaking, sleeping in tents. During the Corona pandemic, friluftsliv has gotten even more of a boost because it's something that people actually can do during lockdown. People have been buying hammocks in record numbers and sleeping outside in hammocks, just stringing this up wherever they can. So it's not, I mean, Norwegians are fairly sports oriented, but this isn't sports. This is, you know, anybody can enjoy it, from, you know, babies in their carriages who are left sleeping outside to get the fresh air on a veranda, to seniors up in their 90s who'll still be going for Sunday walks in the woods. So the next concept that I wanted to talk to you about is that you can put together koselig and friluftsliv. So if you see here, we've got someone outside relaxing with some snacks. There's some candles. This is a snow cave down in the side there. Candles. We would have snacks in there. Tents, lights, something nice to eat. This is what we would put together and say, it's koselig, and we have friluftsliv. This is the best. These are the two best things that most Norwegians can have. That is super koselig. So this is like the top of koselig as you can get it. This is where Norwegians are in their element. Most Norwegians. There are some Norwegians that like to sit on the sofa and watch Netflix, but they're not the majority of Norwegians. Maybe they are the majority of Norwegians, but they don't talk about it. Another concept that you'll definitely find in the Play Away to Norway game, and a concept that's very, very important in Norway, is a concept called dugnad. And dugnad is another word that I don't quite find in English in the same way. It's got an element of working as a volunteer, but it has to do a little bit more with the way that you volunteer to do something. So the word itself actually traces back to shipbuilding, and when groups of people would get together to help build the ships and launch the ships. But now it's used as a general term for all kinds of volunteer activities. So some of the most typical like dugnad activity would be when a whole neighborhood gets together to clean up their neighborhood before the national holiday, for example. Or everybody gets together to build something for the local playground, something like this. It's also used very much in sports. Sports are almost wholly voluntary in Norway. They're run by volunteers, and so here you've got a kind of ad hoc ski competition where everything is run by volunteers. This is a dugnad. The thing about a dugnad is when you first come to Norway as a foreigner, you will be invited to dugnad. Like what happens is you live in a neighborhood, and then at the post boxes, someone will hang up a poster and say it's dugnad, and then a time, Saturday at 2 p.m. or something, bring coffee, bring hot dogs, and the whole neighborhood is expected to gather. There's some sort of a task, maybe painting a fence, or maybe just cleaning up around the playground, or something like that. And you might get there and you might realize that, okay, there's 15 pieces of fence to paint, and there are 15 brushes, and there are 30 people. So there's really more people at the dugnad than there are jobs to be done at the dugnad. And coming maybe from an American background, you would think this is ridiculous. This is just really, really, really badly organized. And it's going to take 2 hours to do this. What you'll have to realize is this is a part of building building the society, building the social aspect of living in a neighborhood. So what's important here at the dugnad is not really the work you're doing or how you're doing the work, but it's the people that you talk to while you're doing the work. It's the chit chat while you're doing the work. And then it's the hot dogs and the coffee and maybe the homemade cupcakes that they call muffins in this country. That's what's important with the dugnad. So my advice to anybody that is moving to Norway is go to the dugnad. It's a very, very important part of becoming a part of the community in Norway. If you don't go to the dugnad, people will talk about you behind your back about how those foreigners didn't go to the dugnad. So if you move to Norway, please keep that in mind. These days, there's another form of dugnad. It's represented by toilet paper. And that is because in Norway, most classes, once they get up to about, I guess it must be about 8th or 9th grade, go on class trips, and they need to raise money for their class trips, or they need to raise money for their sports teams. And so they do that by doing some sort of sale where it's I guess the reason it's a dugnad is because it's usually that the parents that end up doing most of the work and the parents' friends that end up sort of donating money so that they'll get things like toilet paper or actually shrimp lotteries or things like that. It's a bit complicated and it's a bit of a stretch of dugnad. I think you need to come to Norway to experience it. So we've talked a little bit about these concepts, which are some of my favorite concepts that I think are quite unique to Norway, and definitely very foreign to me coming from the US. Another thing that I really, really like about the language is this aspect of the structure of the language, which is compound words. So you can take smaller words and make them into larger words in Norwegian. So you've seen one example of that already. Fri is like freedom, luft is air, liv is life. Put those together and you have friluftsliv, kind of a new concept there. This was one of the ones that I really liked coming from the US. Rulle and trapp is rulletrapp. So rulle, that's something that rolls. A trapp is stairs. So instead of calling it what we would call it in the US, we have to make a new word, or England, you have to make a new word, escalator. They just say it's stairs and it rolls. It's a trapp, det ruller, rulletrapp. So that is a rulletrapp. I just love the simplicity of it. And I think it says something about the Norwegian simplicity. So during Corona, I think this has probably happened in your languages as well. A whole new vocabulary has come up inspired by Corona. So we have Corona and crisis, that's Corona plus krise. We put it together, that's one new word, Corona krise. We have Corona pandemi, Corona pandemi. Corona test, Corona test. Corona kilo, that's when you gain the Corona weight. Corona sveis, sveis is a haircut. This is the Corona sveis. Someone had to help him out at home. He couldn't get to the hairdresser because they were all closed during lockdown. And Corona yoga, which I'm really not sure what could possibly be or how it could be different than regular Corona, but it is in fact a concept. So along these lines, you have the longest word in the Norwegian language. It is Fylkestrafikksikkerhetsutvalgssekretariats lederfunksjonene. And it's not as difficult as it looks because these 58 letters are made up of all of these words. Fylke, county, traffic, sikkerhet, safety, utvalg, committee, secretariat, secretary, leader, and function. So the county's traffic safety committee secretarial leadership duties, which is not a word that I think people use very often, but it is in fact the longest word in the Norwegian dictionary as of today. I Googled it. So to sum up the concepts, I think we need a hytte, And a hytte is also a very typical Norwegian thing. A hytte is a cabin, and it represents a lot of Norwegian values in once. Traditionally, a hytte would be a very simple place where you would go into nature to be close to nature, gather with your family, candles, quiet, and peaceful. So this is a hytte in the mountains. So this is a cabin in the mountains. Most Norwegians either have a cabin or access to a cabin. So friends or family with a cabin, either in the mountains or on the coast. So I would like to invite Maya and Pauline to turn on their microphones and join me for this. Pauline, are you here? Pauline, I think has had a little.
Yeah, I'm here.
You're here. Sorry, there you are. Thank you. Now I can see you. Maya, if you say something, then I can see you as well. Okay. So here we have your standard hytte, and we would call this
Superkoselig.
Nice! We're not to superkoselig yet, Maya. No,
Sorry.
This is the most simple form of cabin, okay? We just have the candles here, okay? It is?
Hyggelig.
It's hyggelig. That's right, it's hyggelig. Now
Koselig.
Now it's koselig, that's right, because now we have potato chips and we have wine. Doesn't need to be wine, it could be soda, it could be beer, it could be coffee, it could be tea. Now, here we have, what do we have here from the concepts that we've learned today?
Superkoselig.
No, we still don't have superkoselig.
I think all of it is superkoselig.
Yeah.
This is just friluftsliv.
Okay.
Okay, this is friluftsliv. They're having it a little bit hyggelig, but they need wine and potato chips or beer or soda or coffee to make it
Superkoselig.
super koselig. Yes. Can you believe we rehearsed this and they did it way better in the rehearsal? Okay, so Maya, I would like to invite you to tell us your favorite Norwegian concept.
Thank you. As you can tell, I'm not Norwegian enough to recognize the different myself.
No, Maya has a very checkered past. I don't think that that was a part of your introduction, but Maya has lived in China and in the US, and her mother is Hungarian, and her father is Norwegian, and she spent a lot of time in Norway as well. Go ahead, Maya.
Yes, thank you very much. So thank you so much for having me. Today, I would like to mention a word or a type of idiom that I haven't been able to translate to any of the languages, at least I know, and that is bjørnetjeneste. This is a word, yes, bjørnetjeneste. This is a word that came from a French fable from 1678, in which a domesticated bear had thrown a rock at his master in trying to help scare away the flies from his face. And so directly translated, it means a bear favor, which doesn't make much sense. But what it means is that you go in to do something with a good intention for someone, but it ends up causing more harm than good. So for instance, if you're doing your friend's homework and helping them out with a subject they don't understand, but then when they get to the exam, they don't know what they've done because they didn't do the homework and they'll probably fail. Or parents that try to shield their children from society and trying to protect them, but when they come out into the real world, they have problems adjusting. So it's a very interesting word that's used more than you'd expect in conversation, and I find it very funny.
Yeah. And Pauline, do you know this fable from French? Is this common? Do you have this term in French? Do you have one word that represents this concept in French?
I'm not sure. I know the author is Jean de La Fontaine, so he was very famous for writing so many fables, and we actually study some of them in France at school. But the thing is that he has written so many, so I haven't heard about this one especially. But I'm surprised that it is used now in Norway, that they have been looking for this kind of expression in this really old fable. So I'm happy about it.
I bet you are. Okay, Pauline, you have a concept that you find really interesting and very unique to Norway. Would you like to tell us about that? And then I will put the picture up.
Yeah. Actually, I wanted to talk about a verb that exists in Norwegian. It doesn't really exist in France. The verb I want to talk about is å flagge. And maybe you will recognize. So in English, we have the word flag. So it has something to do with the flag. When I arrived here in Norway, I was really surprised of how many flags I would see every day, which I found really beautiful, always floating in the sky, especially when the weather is nice. And in France, we don't really use the flag like this, even if people think we are really proud. People don't use the flag except for the National Day for military parades or on the administration building. And the only social use I remember for the flag, it was when we won the World Cup of football in 1989. But basically, we don't use the flag. So what I really like here is that we see flags everywhere. People are free to use the flag in the morning and take it down in the afternoon. So there are specific rules for the flag. So the flag should not be outside during the night. What I really like is the social use of the flag. So especially for the 17th of May, which is the National Day, you can see on the picture that the flag is everywhere. And I think the industry of the flag has never been so happy to have this Norwegian flag. In Norway, what I like, for example, when you just walk in the street and you see that there is a flag in front of a house or in a garden, you can only think that there is something good happening, because Norwegians like to take out the flag when they celebrate the birthday or something very positive. So when I see a flag, I just can't stop trying to imagine what's going on in this house. Is it a birthday? Is it positive? But anyway, it always makes me smile and just remind me that people are just so happy here and they want to show it, even if it's for very simple reasons.
Yeah.
So.
Great, thanks, Pauline.
Yeah.
I didn't find a picture of it, but the Norwegians also put the flags on their Christmas trees, and the flag is very, yeah, I mean, it is a very, very patriotic symbol, of course, but I think that Pauline is right that it's so often in Norway linked to children and the 17th of May. So there's a sort of, yeah, it's not perceived as quite so like military style nationalistic, I guess we could say. But did you, Maya and Pauline, do you have any last words, or else we'll hand the floor back to Daiva? Anything else you wanted to say?
Maybe on the patriotic note of the use of the flag, I just want to mention that I, like Pauline, really love seeing the flag, and it makes me smile whenever I do see it, and that it really represents also the people of Norway and the unity and the diversity within Norway, which is a really cool thing, I would say. So that's, yes.
That's nice to end on. Okay, thank you. Thank you all very much for your attention, and you're welcome to visit us in Norway anytime. Bye.
Thank you very much, yeah, for illustrating Norwegian language and culture, Zanke, and writing in such a nice way. Yeah, and I just wanted to add a few words, to say a few words to answer question Sigitas Ratkevičienės question about any plans to extend our project. So yes, we applied with another project to Nordplus Foundation for extension of the platform with Swedish and Icelandic language. Talking about the higher levels of Norwegian, yeah, we will think about it in the future. Now we think that we will go, how to say, to other languages for A1 level, and then languages and culture, of course, and then we will think about the extending with the higher level language program. Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, Clear and girls, it was really nice. So next presenter is Christian Timoftichus. Sorry, Christian, if I pronounce in the wrong way. Yes, I tried it several times, but still. Christian is from Romania, and he represents EuroAD, an institution with which we at SIG have been cooperating for more than 20 years. Christian holds a bachelor degree in English and Romanian language and literature, and a master degree in applied linguistics and English language teaching. Since 2017, he has been teaching English to primary school pupils, and since 2019, he has been a member of the EuroAD Foundation's Department of European Projects, which has the expertise of over 20 projects implemented yearly. Christian's area of interest vary from literature, music, and cinematography to ICT, teaching English, and volunteering for various events and organizations. So, Christian, please.
First of all, thank you for the nice introduction. It's a pleasure to be here for a second time. This is the second conference, which was organized by you, in which I represent EuroAD. I would also like to thank my colleagues. Some of them are here today, watching me present some of our work to you. I am very glad for their help throughout creating this presentation and our everyday efforts. Our presentation today focuses on an Erasmus Plus project, which we have been developing with a number of partners. It's called Clear for STEAM. And I will explain to you throughout this presentation, what does this Erasmus Plus project have to do with open educational resources and this conference in general. First of all, we need to explain a few terms because the title of the project may be confusing for some of you, which are not accustomed to the intricacies of teaching. We'll go through what CLIL is, some of the principles behind it, and some more details. But first of all, CLIL, the first part of the name, stands for Content and Language Integrated Learning. What does that mean? It means to teach a subject which you are a teacher of, for example, maths, sciences, you name it, but you do it in a foreign language, and you mix language teaching and content teaching. At first glance, it's very simple. You just carry out your normal class, but you do it in a foreign language. English, French, Norwegian, Lithuanian. But it's not that simple after you start delving into the details. Why is that? You need to focus on very few specific details and principles. And you see them in front of you. First of all, we have, of course, content and communication, which are the founding principles of this method, CLIL. But you also have cognition and culture. These are somehow a result of the former two, content and communication, but we'll go through each one step by step. So content means, of course, progression in knowledge, acquiring new skills, learning things about a school subject, be it sciences, maths, anything art related. Communication means to use a certain language different from yours to acquire knowledge and, of course, to express yourself in that language, of course, related to the subject of the lesson and the school subject. Now, cognition is somehow a result of these two elements interacting. It means to develop thinking skills, linking abstract concept formation, understand notions in a language which you may not be that familiar with, but you are learning while you are learning content. And in doing so, of course, you are exposed to a different culture, be it English, again, French, Lithuanian, and whatever language the teacher decided to carry out their lesson. We are going to discuss a little bit the details about our project. First of all, it's an Erasmus Plus project, which is being under development since November 2019, and it's scheduled to end this October in 2021. You can see the website hosted by Pixel, an Italian association. But before we get to our partners, including Pixel, content and language integrated learning is pretty much clear at this point. I really hope I was very clear on my explanations. On the other hand, STEAM was not explained in my first few slides, so now it's the time. STEAM stands for an array of subjects, and as you can see, they are science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Adding CLIL only completes the picture. Now you have languages added to science, technology, and all the rest. So you have a multi-tool, a Swiss Army knife of teaching, which you can use to carry out any range of teaching activity, from sciences to languages, from arts to maths. They are all doable under the umbrella of this combined method of teaching STEAM subjects through the CLIL method. Now, about our partners, you will see us there, of course, Fundația Eured from Romania. At the top of the list is our coordinator, the Polish partner. And we also have a number of Italian partners, one Lithuanian partner, and one partner from Ireland. We have different tasks, of course, in the framework of this project, but the ultimate goal is to combine the study of STEAM subjects using CLIL. And you can see our priorities is to provide teachers with means and methods of doing so. And this is related to the open educational resources part of the conference. Building a community of practice through developing skills in teachers. Probably not a very significant percentage of teachers are used to teaching different their subject in different languages. So making this method popular is one of our goals. Of course, judging by the idea of our project, the target group is secondary school teachers, because primary school children or kindergarten are not very well exposed to science subjects or other such fields of research, and also their language skills are in development, so they probably need a rich vocabulary to be able to comprehend various notions taught in class. And of course, they're students aged 11 to 19. This covers both middle school and high school in Romania. I'm not sure if that's the case in your countries. For those of you who are attending this conference. And our expected results, and we are getting to the interesting part of the subject, is a set of valuable CLIL-based educational resources for STEAM, which means everything from lesson plans to everything you may need to carry out your teaching activity. A set of teaching resources for the implementation of CLIL for STEAM, and I will show to you a methodology in a few slides from now, and guidelines for using CLIL to teach STEAM. So this covers everything from thinking of a lesson, planning it, gathering materials, and actually carrying out the lesson itself. And of course, the feedback session after that with the children. Okay. So as I promised, we got to the interesting and conference relevant part of the presentation, our products, which qualify as open educational resources because yes, they are available online already. We have produced them, tested them. They are open to the public. They can be used at any point. They are pretty much free to use as we speak. First of all, we started with a methodology because guidelines are important for establishing rules and limitations for using CLIL and STEAM at the same time. And it's available, of course, online if you follow that link. And it looks like this. On the left, you have the web page linking to the methodology with a brief description, of course. And on the right, you have the first 2 pages of the methodology. If you look closely enough, you can see the contents, the table of contents there, detailing what you are about to go through. And it's a very well developed and well thought material carried out by our consortium of partners. Next, we have a video library, which could not have been possible without the help of very dedicated teachers putting effort into creating materials. They are very good examples of subjects taught through the use of language teaching, combined with language teaching. They approached a range of subjects from predator and prey, which is a biology subject, to hydrocarbon, which is chemistry. We even have videos on art. Everything is, again, available on the project's website, which is very well designed. You also have filters. If you're interested in a specific subject, for example, you only want to access chemistry videos because that's your field of research and your field of teaching, you can only view those. And of course, you can go on YouTube where they are uploaded and watch them in very high resolution, pause the video and adapt what you see to your lesson. After doing that, we, of course, added a collection of reviewed teaching resources. Why are they reviewed? Because they were already available somewhere on the internet or in physical form, and we only assessed their potential use and potential benefit for our project. Again, they are very well structured from a user interface point of view. Again, you have subjects, the subject menu where you can select your specific subject of teaching. You can also browse specific types of products, and you can see there an open list ranging from articles to websites, videos. And yes, if you select one of those, you do find materials classified as such. And I'm not sure if you can notice, on the right, there is another column, and again, another field of selection, covering the language skills developed, because it's not CLIL for STEAM if you don't resort to the CLIL part of the method. So of course, you need to know exactly how to teach that subject, that particular lesson, and what do you need in a foreign language, be it vocabulary, pronunciation, morphology, and everything else. After that, we created our own resources. After establishing a database of already existing resources, we worked towards creating our own. And again, the structure is similar to the previous section that we looked at a few seconds ago. We again have the subject field, we have the product field, the type of material that is available online. And now you can see the language field there. And of course, it covers all for English or any other language skill involved in teaching the language. listening, reading, speaking, writing, and interaction, which is very important because it's what binds together CLIL and STEAM. Finally, we worked towards embedding those resources, those concepts presented in the videos into lesson plans. And yes, we have some of those available as well. Again, you have a screen capture of the website where you can see the subjects: art, biology, chemistry, technology, physics, and you have lesson plans for each. For example, if you want to teach exponential growth, which is a math subject, you can find an already designed lesson plan there. And of course, you know already beforehand what skills will be covered if you decide to download that lesson plan, the additional resources required, and use it in class. I'm not sure if I convinced you enough. We have a very well-developed database covering the methodology. We also have lesson plans and all sorts of materials, but the practical side was not visible as of yet. So what I'm going to show you is the core ideology of the CLIL for STEAM project in action. A few of our children, middle school children, carried out an experiment in their chemistry class under the guidance of their teacher. And I'm proud to say it came out great, and they themselves were very happy with the result, because they not only learned something new about a very sensitive subject, which is ecological filtration of water, water preservation, which is even more important than ever in today's day, but also language, because the lessons were carried out, of course, in English, a language they and their teacher were familiar with. So without further ado, I invite you to watch the video, and if you have any questions or observations to make, feel free to do so.
Hello, we're the 7th graders from Euroed Secondary School, and this is a school project about water pollution, water treatment, and the environment, and what we can do to help it.
During our chemistry class titled Physical Separation Methods of Wastewater, we learned about conventional and unconventional water filtration methods.
For our first experiment, our teacher presented a scale model of industrial water filtration so we can understand what happens in a water treatment plant.
We used Erlenmeyer glasses, filter paper, glass funnels, and stirring rods in dirty water to simulate the real-life process.
After decanting and filtering wastewater, we obtained filtered water. We were able to observe the amount of sediments and filtrate resulted after the experiment and drew a conclusion. If the small amount of wastewater we used had so much sediment, we should be worried about the amount of sediments in the wastewater produced by an entire city.
For our second experiment, we took things even further. We simulated the case when we were in the woods with no access to drinking water, and we had to improvise a water filtration device.
Our teacher presented the theory behind the filtering process, the materials required, and provided us with the required materials.
We were given recycled materials, used plastic bottles, small amounts of coal, sand and gravel, as well as cotton discs. Finally, we produced small amounts of dirty water in order to have something to filter.
During the experiment, we left the water to sediment for a few minutes. In the meantime, we placed cotton discs at the bottom of the filtering bottle. We added a layer of coal powder on the top, then 2 more layers, 1 sand and 1 gravel. After our filtering devices were complete, we poured water into them and waited for filtered water to come out of the bottom.
We noticed how the fineness and thickness of the layers influenced the quality of the filtered water, how improperly placed cotton discs allowed the water to carry particles.
That people can have a negative impact on the environment.
The identification of pollution factors is a first step towards reducing the effects of pollution by reducing excessive consumption, directly recycling, and protecting natural resources.
We are the future, and it is in our hands to protect the environment and save the water.
I'll be responsible to protect the rivers and forests of wasted plastic bottles. I will reduce the use of so many technological tools to filtrate water at home. They become big factors of pollution.
I will save our mountains of plastic bottles. Ecological water filtration during camping can be fun and more safe.
We will try to teach others what we've learned, how easy it is to generate wastewater, how hard it is to filter it, how important it is to protect nature, and how valuable recycled materials are.
Okay, so after watching that, I was very happy to review that video because I consider it a very important success of ours, not only in the framework of our project, but also from a teaching point of view. We managed to draw their attention to this sensitive subject, water filtration, water disposal, and how we can do what we can do to prevent creating unnecessary wastewater. But also, as you noticed, their English skills were very well developed, and that is, of course, normal for them to be very good at English. I know them since they were very young, but they acquired quite a significant amount of language skills during the unfolding of our experiments. At first, they were not sure how to pronounce certain things or how some materials are called. They got used to it very quickly, and as you noticed, they were very fluent. So what can we learn from this, except that it's a very good idea to embed teaching languages into teaching certain subjects, and of course that are readily available materials if you look for them in the right places. For example, in the background of Erasmus Plus projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It was really interesting. And now, before moving on the next stage of the conference, I would like to give a floor to Dr. Olga Medvedeva from Faculty of Philology at Vilnius University, who in a few words wants to present a project what is very correlated to the topic of today's conference. Later in the chat box, Olga will provide a link to the project website so that those interested in the project can find out more about its activities. And by the way, any of you are welcome to send links to the projects to our chat box, to the projects which are focused on on development, or have already what was development with the regards of open educational resources. We will share this information with all of you later while sending certificates or inviting to provide the feedback. Okay, Olga, are you here? Okay, you are.
I'm here. Thanks a lot, dear Daiva, for giving me this chance. And I know I just have a few minutes. I feel like an intruder, but I'll be very, very short. But still, I would like to say thank you to the organizers, because the event itself is so timely and it is so rich in content that it's really appreciated, not just by me, but by all the audience. And of course, a few words about just a way of justification for me being so persistent in letting you know what we are busy with. So we have just started a project that is called Quill, a nice word. You will hear you will find the reference to it. Quill is actually, well, a nice word, but it's also the acronym for Quality in Language Learning. Well, you might say nothing new, quality language learning. How can you surprise people. We have been after that for so many years. But the thing is that the word, the concept quality indeed changes with the years. And we can imagine that today we speak about different qualities that was accepted, let us say, 20 years ago. So what I want to say, what is new really about this project? It is all about open educational resources, just what our two first speakers were talking about, and these nice examples that we have just seen of the products of this project, and well, I mean, Norwegian, Lithuanian, and Romanian project as well. But our open educational resources will focus on a very specific and a very needed area, that is language for specific purposes at a university level. So that would be specific languages for specialists in various areas of activities, from engineering to dancing. Well, you will find in the chat all the reference to the project, and I'm welcome to all your words or comments that you may have, but you will see what we are in for and wish us luck. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Olga. So you are welcome now to provide information on the chat. And now I would like to introduce members of the panel discussion, which is our final and last section of this conference. So the discussion will be led by Christina and joined by Clea, Christian, Audronė, and Martin. Christina, Clea, and Christian have already been introduced to you as speakers. So now I would like to say a few words about Martin and Audronė. Dr. Martin Kilgus studied political science, American studies, international relations, and communications in Stuttgart and Washington, D.C. He is a head of project management at Integra Filter. Before, he worked as the project manager for the Robert Bosch Foundation and served as the journalist and editor with NBC and SWA Public Radio and TV. He is an expert in migration and integration, international culture relations, development cooperations, and social and cultural diversity. I'm so happy that my friend and long-term project partner Martin is with us today. He is a person with whom you can talk for hours on a very wide variety of topics. His range of interest is very wide, and his attentiveness to others in the conversation makes everyone feel important. And Audronė has 40 years of experience in education. She began her professional career as an English language lecturer at Vilnius College. While working there, she placed emphasis on the improvement of special language skills in the professional growth of her students. More than 25 years Audronė has spent as a deputy director at Vilnius Karoliniškių Gymnasium, 5 years at Soros International House as a director of studies, and an English language teacher, trying to use creative learning tools and upgrade language lessons with active and teaching methods, encourage language teachers to seek professional growth and integration of the 21st century skills into the classroom. I really admire Audronė and her husband's passion for art, and I'm so glad that our cooperation and friendship, which started when she worked with us, continues until now. So, dear colleagues, you are welcome to start your discussion. Christina.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the topic of our panel discussion is modern technologies will not replace teachers, but teachers using modern technologies are already replacing those who do not use them. It's a little bit of a controversial topic, but today technology is everywhere. It has become almost inescapable from our lives, having an influence on most of our activities. Among these, learning is one such area where technology has proven to be highly beneficial. Now, David Warlick, who is an educator, author, and programmer, very well explained how using technology in the classroom can improve and speed up the process of human growth when he said, "We need technology in every classroom and in every student and teacher's hand, because it is the pen and paper of our time, and it is the lens through which we experience much of our world." Moreover, nowhere does technology have a greater potential for good than as a set of digital tools to enhance the teaching and learning taking place in our schools. So much so that education writer Janelle Cox noted in one of her articles, "This widespread adoption of technology has completely changed how teachers teach and students learn. By embracing and integrating technology in the classroom, we are setting our students up for a successful life outside of school." Now, Cox lists just a few benefits of bringing technology into the classroom. So, technology in the classroom makes learning more fun, it prepares students for the future, it improves retention rate, it helps students learn at their own pace, and it connects with students. And she continues to say, "Technology changes by the minute, and educators need to keep up with the times to best prepare our students for this ever-changing world that we live in." So let's begin with the first question that I'd like to ask all of the panelists. Do you agree with David Warlick's quote? Yes or no? And why or why not? So I would like to begin with Claire.
Yes, I do agree, but I think that technology needs to enable creativity and teach skills like coding rather than using just mere word processing. So not just a mere replacement for a pen and paper, there has to be some added value. I think that tech can also be used to make subjects more interdisciplinary, to teach computational skills as well. So I like the idea, for example, of growing a plant from seeds as a part of what we've always done in science classrooms, and maybe attaching a sensor to check water levels and temperatures and things like that to introduce mathematics, and then also introduce the technical aspect of it with a little gadget or something like that.
Okay, thank you. Very interesting. I'd next like to move on to Martin. Do you agree or disagree, and why or why not?
Well, half and half, like Claire just did. Of course, I do agree that technology today belongs in every classroom and every student's and teacher's hand. However, speaking about technology as a media guy, technology in the classroom very often refers to media tools. And of course, we speak about smartphones or tablets and projectors or beamers, which are used as a tool in teaching. However, I think we also need to teach teachers and students how these tools work. So they need to have skills and competences to work with technology. And my experience, at least here in the German-speaking area of Europe, is that many teachers and many students as well lack these competences and skills how to actually use this new technology. And I think a big mistake with teachers are making or have been making for the last years, that we kind of assume that a young generation basically born with a smartphone in their hand or with a tablet at the first day of life basically intuitively knew or know how to operate this. And I think this is wrong. And I also believe that pen and paper will still be necessary in the future, because technology is only a medium or a media. And I think a printed book with papers, the stuff I grew up with in the 70s and 80s, also was a lens for me to look at the rest of the world, as today the internet, my tablet, my smartphone, my laptop is. So there's not that big a difference between the old days of paper and pen and today's time of laptops and smartphones.
Very good point, Martin. Thank you. Okay, Odrone, I'd like to move on to you now. What do you think?
Lots has been said, but I'd like just to comment this metaphors used in the saying and to contradict. So I totally agree with the first part of this idea or the sentence. And indeed, technology is the pen and paper in every student and teacher's hand nowadays. So especially in this pandemic situation that we don't have even other choice, when everything was locked down and we were sitting and teaching from our homes. But of course, so putting a screen in front of any student doesn't automatically make a successful lesson and make a meaningful learning. So sometimes it does the opposite, and we have to take it into consideration. If we want to use technology meaningfully in our classes, we have to make sure it adds something to student learning. So we have to think about engagement, motivation, a new task, or maybe a chance to experience something new. As far as the second part of this quotation, so I'd like just to, again, to talk about this metaphor lens. So I'm not an expert in physics, and I'm not a physics teacher. So, but I know that lens is very important in cameras. But of course, if this lens is of low quality, so we wouldn't achieve a nice picture, and it won't have a nice capture of the world. So that's why, so using these metaphors, so I would say that, again, the teachers should be very skillful in using those learning platforms, those lenses, to show our students the best, what they have, what they can. So, well, those lenses, to sum up, they might be of low quality, like very, I would say, unexperienced teachers could use technologies in not a professional way. So we educators have to teach and educate and to make those technologies as much useful as is possible. So much about these ideas.
Thank you, Odrone. That was a really interesting metaphor you used. Okay, Christian, where do you stand on this quote?
On the same side as the other speakers, I'm quite sure that no one disagrees with this quote, but in case someone does, I have a few arguments ranging from short-term to long-term. So first of all, if we embed technology in every classroom, we have the unique opportunity to tweak our lessons and speak our students' language, and that is very important for getting their attention and making lessons memorable. Why not? As opposed to speaking standard language and only referring to common things which may or may not draw interest. Moving on, technology is a part of human life. Martin mentioned smartphones being glued to students' hands, and they grew up with them. So as a teacher, you become a teacher to teach, and that covers every aspect of human life involving, of course, technology. So we should be prepared to have it everywhere around us and know how to use it and develop digital literacy as much as we develop the other sorts of literacy competences that we strive to develop. And my final argument is that we are not preparing our students for the world that we know, the traditional one, to say so. We are preparing them for 2040, 2050, whenever there will be adults. That world will be even more and imbued with technology, and thinking in perspective, we need to prepare them for that, not for today.
Thank you, Christian. Very good point. Okay, now moving on to the next question, I would actually like Claire to answer this one. How does modern technology affect education?
I get to go first again.
Yes.
That's the best spot to be in with this crowd, I think. Well, I mean, obviously, we've seen a lot of the effects of modern technology during the pandemic, as Androne mentioned. I mean, where would we have been without it? Made opportunities much more available for people who weren't physically able to access education, and this is a lesson that we can take into the future and give many more people access. Just look at how many people can participate in this webinar today that wouldn't be able to come to Vilnius to see it. So this gives us a lot of opportunities. I think that it gives us a lot of a chance to become more creative, offer more flexible studying solutions, make the most out of the time that we're together in a classroom, and provide ways of asynchronous learning. But I think that what we've gone through now with the pandemic has been a kind of an emergency kind of a situation. I think we have a long way to go through gamification, especially for children that are struggling with traditional learning methods. So
okay, all right, thank you very much, Claire. Now the next question begins with this premise. Some research shows that technology is used more as a tool rather than an embedded part of the teaching process. So I would like to ask Martin, do you agree? And what could be done by educators in order to include technology more in the teaching learning process?
Well, actually, I do agree, and I want to take up what Christian just said before, which for me makes a lot of sense, that of course a teacher working with students or children is not only a teacher for a specific subject, but for all the skills and competences the children or the students will need, including also the management of modern technology and all the modern tools. And I think many of the teachers still use technology as a tool only because they themselves lack the competences and the skills to really tell the students what is behind this tool, this technology. And so they have big problems or big challenges to really use technology as an embedded part of a learning and teaching process. What I could notice here during the last years basically was that, of course, we have a younger and an older generation of teachers, and the older ones might be superb regarding their pedagogical skills, but they really have a severe lack of knowledge in the field of technology, internet, online services, and online teaching, whereas the younger generation, of course, has acquired all the skills during their studies and also has a very critical approach towards the use of technology within a classroom or within a learning experience. So I myself could notice at a school that in one classroom, basically a teacher was still using an overhead projector, books, pens, and papers, whereas in the other room, a young teacher was working with augmented realities, and all the pupils, all the students had a special augmented reality classes, virtual reality classes, sitting on their heads. So it is a different, completely different form of teaching, and there's a lot of competition between students and teachers on both sides. Which form of teaching is the better one, the more attractive one? And I think what we really need to do is to train our educators, at least here in our area, way better than we used to be, and to really include technology and IT skills and competences as part of teaching methodologies into teachers' education and training. I think this is a very big must from my point of view.
Yeah, thank you, Martin. Yeah, very interesting how different, what different methods teachers use. All right, moving on to the next question. Now, I would like to ask Audrone, what external and internal barriers do educators have to overcome in order to embrace technology in their classroom? So I would like to ask Audrone as one of the top managers of a school.
Okay, so I'd like to continue Martin's idea that sometimes we, in the same school, even in the capital, so we might just meet different standards and different teaching styles. So in one classroom, augmented reality, virtual reality, and VR glasses might be used, while the other would prefer just working and using those, they call it classical styles of teaching. So, well, people are different, technologies are different, but talking about barriers. So, of course, as everywhere, there are objective and subjective situations, or primary and secondary barriers, or even external and internal barriers. So now, what might be those external, just the barriers that even rural or different schools face with? So external barriers might be very simple, technical devices, even internet access, even just, for example, from my own experience. So when the lockdown started, with this coronavirus, so we started using Zoom because we didn't have chance of using those different remote learning possibilities, because it was no need. So, but then we thought that there are much more professional, and we started using Teams. Yeah, so lots of schools are using Teams. So I know other schools are using other classroom, different platforms. So, well, schools have different attitudes and approaches towards using those technical, and of course, schools policy, schools culture matters a lot. So if we educators, administrators encourage our teachers to use technologies, not to be afraid, we start motivating, encouraging them. So maybe just in future, step by step, they will start using them. But it takes some time because of those secondary barriers. So secondary barriers are those inner personality traits, qualities. Sometimes teachers are afraid, so they are not very self-confident to use those technical, because it might be not reliable even. Either just those different, again, new technologies, they change so often, and older teachers, so sometimes they have some difficulties in going just in the same pace as young ones. So that's why, to sum up, I would say those external and internal barriers could be overcome, and they are easily overcome, but it should be due to joint efforts, both from administrators' point of view, educators, and the teachers should be willing themselves just to change, to use innovative teaching methods and to learn. So a good teacher is always learning to use something new, and to making these steps might be improved day by day by constant change and constant efforts. Yeah, so much about those barriers.
Thank you, Audrone. That's a very good answer. Yes, they could be overcome, but requires effort on all sides. Now, my final question, looking maybe not so far into the future, as Martin said, some teachers already use virtual and augmented reality. It is being used. So I'd like to ask Christian, what are the challenges of VR and AR utilization among teachers?
First of all, I am a bit conflicted about answering to this question, because in a way it makes me say bad things about using VR and AR, and being directly involved in producing a database of such materials, virtual reality materials for students. I know just how good they are and how interesting they are if done right, but in what concerns the challenges, first and foremost is resources. That covers everything from producing those VR materials to actually using them, viewing VR material. And why do I say that? First of all, you need to find good materials which highlights your topic. Whether you have to produce it or you find it readily available is another question, but producing VR material is very costly in terms of computer resources. Takes a lot of time, a lot of memory, a lot of processing power. And then when it's finally done, your smartphone may not support it. Smartphones come in all flavors of design and resources. Some of them simply do not support 3D motion. They do not have the sensors for that. So resources are a big part of the problem. And if we are talking teacher end of the problem, they may not have the technology to give their students access to whatever materials they find. And again, materials may be very, very useful. Some of them unique. Not every day you can, I don't know, take a stroll in a museum you have never seen or watch a volcano erupt or whatever. The other reason why VR and AR may be a challenge is that it's a strain from use point of view. Students may get tired after only a few minutes of watching VR material. And it's very easy to figure out why when you see how they are used. You simply take your phone or you have a device which is in itself connected to a database of resources, and you put it very close to your eyes, and after not more than 10 minutes of watching VR materials and interacting with the environment, the effects are very noticeable, especially in older population, like myself. Just kidding. It's not very good for children to view such materials for a prolonged period of time. And those are just a few off the top of my head challenges that I could think of, but they cover pretty much the entire problem.
Thank you very much, Christian. Wow, never thought about these like really substantial challenges that we face. All right, thank you very much to all of the panelists. Now, I'd like to call everyone, the whole audience, all of our participants, to participate in the following section. So, as we discuss technology in education, why don't we all include more technology in our conference? So you have heard the opinions of our panel members, and now we would like to hear your opinion. Look at the topic of our panel discussion. Here you see on the slide, and decide on your answer to the question whether you agree or not. So you should decide whether yes, you agree, no, you don't agree because modern technologies will replace teachers eventually, or no, you don't agree because teachers who don't use technology are not being replaced. Okay, so take a minute to think about what your answer is. And now, if you know, please open an internet browser on your computer or on your phone, whichever is more convenient. And I'll show you where to go, which address. So please go to vevox.app, vevox.app, and enter the ID. You don't need to enter these hyphens, just type the numbers. So go to this address and enter the ID, or if you're using your phone, you can scan this QR code and it will take you to the website. I will now open the poll. And you will see the same question on your devices, on your phones or in your computers. Select the answer. Okay, here we have some answers and we see the results changing in real time. You just need to select the answer, don't need to click anything else. And also you can change your answer. Okay, I see that we have 60 participants on Zoom, but only 14 have joined. So I would encourage more people to open their internet browsers, go to webex.app, enter the room ID, and vote. Funny, no one is choosing the middle answer. Of course not, we're all teachers. Okay, we can see the tendency here. Most people, about 70, 80+% agree that modern technologies are already replacing, teachers using modern technologies are replacing those who don't use them. And others don't think that teachers are being replaced. Teachers who don't use technology. Okay, we have 20 people who have voted. Oh, somebody said that technologies will replace teachers. Okay, anyone else? Okay, I guess that's it. These are our final results. I'm going to stop, close the poll. Very interesting. Okay, so thank you to all the panelists and all the audience members who voted. I will now let Daiva go back to moderating.
Okay. I think, yeah, we expected the answer we we got. Yeah, and I understand that we are all very tired after a long day. So, but now we are at the end almost. And to sum up the results of the conference, I invite Martin, who you have already just met, and who has extraordinary talents to interest people on any topic. So even in summing up, he can interest all of us.
Well, thanks, Daiva, as ever, for your nice words and for really raising expectations. So I have to fulfill all this. Well, actually, I want to go back to the start of today's session with Irina's presentation, which gave us the introduction into open educational resources being part of open education. And it just came to my mind listening to her that this is basically still kind of a new process. Remember, she was telling us that it came up from the Scandinavian countries around year 2008. So we're talking about more or less the last 10 or 15 years. And she had a very clear focus that open education, open educational resources, of course, are closely connected to digital skills of teachers' competences, because teachers, of course, need to be, well, open towards open educational resources, learn how to select the proper resource, how to develop a resource, create and modify resources, also use available resources, adapt them to their very specific needs, to manage them, but also to protect and to share them, which then is a very interesting idea that actually the use of OER prepares the floor for collaboration and international cooperation, for the co-development to develop OER resources and also to develop curricula. And it was really interesting in Irina's presentation to see some of the data banks. So just, for instance, the slide wiki, but also to learn from her about, in her project, just the research she did when she actually trained teachers, but also involved students and made piloting research and evaluation questionnaires of teachers and students' experience before, during, and after the piloting of OER resources. And the interesting finding was that basically everyone appreciated it, that it really was a success in the learning perception, and that students found it really challenging, interesting. They connected in a different way. And of course, for teachers, the idea of using OER opened, let's say, a door to a new world of teaching. So today, OER, open educational resources, are recognized all over Europe, and this just within 10 years. And all of us today, all us, the participants, are part of this process and also have a little part of the cake of this success story, because once more to remember what Irina told us, basically we talk about OER courses, which lead our way to open education and also to open studies, to just create natural processes of a new form of learning. And interesting enough, this then was continued with Yorogita's presentation, which I found really, really interesting, because basically that reminded me of my old days at university when I had some seminars and classes in linguistics with a guy called Noam Chomsky in Boston. And in those days, back in the 80s, he told me, well, you know, the new days of linguistic studies will be computer linguistic. This was back in the year 1985. And of course, for us in those days, these were the days without internet, without like real computers at university. Even I didn't have a computer, just an old-fashioned electric typewriter to type my master's thesis. And today, everything is different. And this experience and presentation from Yogita to use open access resources for language learning and for language acquisition, to use basically corpus linguistics and translation study linguistics based on a computer platform where actually a corpora of text are analyzed, and out of this, an open educational resource, in a sense of a new learning methodology, could emerge in the field of language learning and language acquisition, for me was highly interesting and really, really challenging, because just remember that she told us basically there's a database, data analysis of any language, which will focus on things like grammar, term banks, translation memories, digital dictionaries, multimedia recordings, tools to analyze the language. And she gave us an introduction to the Clarin project, which basically presents a research infrastructure for an introduction into a virtual language observatory. And she also pointed out, which I found really interesting as well, and I think we also could see in the comments in the chat, that most people of us were really fascinated by the tools she presented, because we could also see the cross-cultural and cross-linguistic awareness of this open educational resource, which really helps students and learners and us as teachers for self-guiding learning processes and self-guided processes to develop new teaching resources and to new teaching materials. And as, let's say, a case study, as a case example, Christina gave us an insight into the current project, which today was the final conference of the Play Your Way to the Norway platform, which basically was also a use of gamification, a joyful, fun way to not only learn more about the Norwegian language, but also to learn about the Norwegian culture. And I very much enjoyed Christina's presentation, because first of all, it was this combination of languages, culture as an example, because we all know both do go together. They are elementary parts of our life, language and culture. And of course, it was interesting to see this fascinating platform leading to an A1 level of Norwegian at the current stage of development of this project, with very unique features, just as video, audio, text material, quizzes, tests and scores, also a bit competitive access to see how are the others doing, and a very clever, intelligent method that you really have to answer multiple choice questions correctly in order to proceed, and you're not allowed to correct a wrong answer. So basically, you really have to study a text, and we all know, despite all the advantages of open educational resources and open educational study courses, learning a new language, language acquisition is still a hard and tough piece of work. And this became very clear to me in Claire's presentation on the Norwegian language. And this, for me, as a a speaker having the German language as my native language, was really, really funny to see that when Claire talked about the concept of culture and language, culture and words, and talking about Hygge, a special concept, a special feeling, which has to be kuschelig. We in German say kuschelig, so it's kind of the same word. And we also do spend time in the Freiluft, the Freeluftslift. We go out to the Freiluft, the free air, the fresh air, the Frischluft, to actually maybe look for a very cozy place like a Hütte, which we have. I have one next to Stuttgart in the Black Forest. I have my Hütte, which is a super kuschelig place for me to stay there, especially in wintertime or in spring. Summer might be a bit too hot out there, but also fall, autumn, with the colors of the trees, it's really, really great to stay out there in the Freeluftslift, in a super kuschelig way, with drinks, with beer, with wine, with pretzel and potato chips. So I found this really interesting for Maya, who brought in this special term, which we also have, because when I read it on the screen, Maya, when you share the screen with us, we have a word in German called Bärendienst, to do a Bärendienst to someone else, which means to do something with actually really, really good intentions. You don't want to do the best for another person, but actually you do the worst for another person. So this is Bärendienst in my language or in our language. And then to conclude basically with Christian's presentation, our partner and dear friend from Romania, with the CLIL and the CLIL for STEAM project, was another really interesting, approach and another example of open educational resources for language teaching, where actually content and language integrated learning is used, that you actually learn language because another subject like math, like a STEAM subject, a science, a technology and engineering subject, is taught in another language than your mother language, your native language. So this was another really interesting concept where Christian introduced us to the sphere of content, which basically is a curriculum we have to follow as teachers and as students in any specific field. Then, of course, the concept of communication, which also is the aspect of learning a new language as a tool of communication. And then cognition, the training skills, the cognitive skills which we need to develop during a learning experience. All this, again, remember what Claire and the other presenters told us about, what Christina told us about, again, is embedded into a cultural context. Whatever we do within a cultural context. And this was really interesting in Christian's presentation, targeting at secondary school teachers, and also his presentation of the tools available in his project, consisting of a set of reviewed teaching learning tools, of a video library, methodologies to download, also own resources, going up to a lesson plan, so that all these open educational resources also do fit in. And this is also very important. And this is what also Irina told us in her first and the opening up conference, that all this fits very well into existing curricula. So we do not have to reinvent the wheel, we just have to use these new open educational resources as modern technologies in learning. And I think your video, Christian, was simply great to see your students with this experiment of wastewater purification. This was, let's say, best practice at the best. And I also very much enjoyed the very small input from Olga, because she reminded of one keyword, which is quality. Of course, we as teachers do have to deliver quality. Teaching is a quality process, and teaching and learning are quality issues. And I think well-made, well-shared, and well-developed open educational resources can really improve the quality of learning and the quality of teaching in Europe. And I think today's conference was an excellent example for that. Thank you very much from my side for listening. I hope I didn't use too much of your time with my very brief and speedy summary. Daiva, the floor is yours again.
Wasn't I right? He's a great speaker. And now I would like to ask everyone to turn on the video so that we can see all the participants who listened patiently and actively, asked questions and thanked our presenters. It would be nice to see all of you, all your faces, and to take a screenshot picture before we part. Wow, nice to see everyone. Oh, wow. Sigita, could you join us?
Sorry, I don't find where I am. Sorry.
Just
okay. So I see like I don't work on Zoom, and that's why I don't find how. Okay, I found it. Okay.
Okay,
so just I hope I will appear.
Good.
If not, so then sorry.
Giletta or Christina, who will make now? Sigita,
we say Zoom is unable to detect the camera. Something wrong with my eye. I will try.
There is a stop video, and then you
okay. So just
good.
Oh yes, I will appear. I hope. Okay, so
good. Wow. Great. Nice to see you.
Thank you for your help.
Now, cheers for the picture.
Okay, I will take 2 pictures because too many people don't fit on one screen. I need to take 1 picture, go to the next page. Okay.
Great.
Everyone.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, great. Let me save this one. And now I will have to go to the next page.
Don't breathe.
Okay, everyone, one more time. 3, 2, 1, smile.
Smile.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Great. And of course, before we part, there are a few more things which I would like to add. I would like to tell you that the certificates of the conference attendance will be sent to all of you by our colleague Gabriele to the email addresses which you provided us while registering on the conference. All the PPTs will be uploaded on SIH website, so you can use them for any needs. And I would like to and of course we would be happy if you fill in the conference feedback form, and the link to this online form will be sent to you by Christina. So thank you once again. It was really nice to see all of you, and it was, I think everybody enjoyed the conference, and we are very happy you joined us. Some other participants, others listened and stayed with us for these 2 hours. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.